Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Litter Media Live. I'm your host, Mike Smith, and joining us today from the Chillicothe Veterans Affairs Medical Center, we have Terry McQuirt. And Terry is on board here to talk to us about their upcoming Veterans Appreciation Night, which will be out at the VA Memorial Stadium on June the 16th. Our interview is brought to you by Advanced Services. Back with Terry McQuirt right after this.
Hi, I'm Dave Pinkerton with Advanced Services Heating and Cooling, your local heating and cooling expert. If you want quality service, quality installation, give Advanced Services a call, 740-773-4499.
We're back with Terry McQuirt of the Chillicothe VA Medical Center. Terry and I have known each other for many years, back in the old radio days. This is your first experience live on TV, I guess.
Yeah. So, I told Mike coming in, I'm like, you put me on camera and sometimes I freeze up, but I got plenty of paperwork around me and we'll get through it just fine. So,
well, my mom used to tell me I had a face for radio years ago, so I don't know how I've ever gotten stuck doing this, but good to have you back with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Veterans Appreciation Night, and we've got a poster of that, I believe, let's see. Yeah, there it is right there. This is the 15th event, 15th annual event, yes. But this is coming up on June the 16th.
It is, and it's our 15th annual event. We're taking a mulligan for the COVID year. And this is just a really cool night for us to get together with our veterans, with their families. We have our information booths, as we always do. We'll have those out front of the stadium starting at 4:30. Get a lot of good resource information from the VA. Some of our community partners will be there as well. We're bringing the carnival game atmosphere back for the kids this year, so they'll be able to play some carnival games, get some prizes, and it's just a really cool night to just enjoy some fellowship and really just celebrate the sacrifices that our veterans have made for our communities. Again, 4:30, those activities outside the stadium will start. That's when we'll start registration, so those that have pre-registered will be able to come through registration and get their tickets. We'll talk a little bit more about that here shortly, but just keep in mind, if you're not able to pre-register or you don't get to it or you become available to come last minute, don't hesitate. Come on out. We've got plenty of resources available. We'll start that at 4:30 outside the stadium, carnival games for the kids. We'll have our VA Fire Department will be setting up static displays for us. And just an opportunity to enjoy that. 5:35, we'll start heading in the stadium for some ballpark food, enjoy that atmosphere. We got a really cool pregame scheduled for this. We'll be presenting our Neil Miller appreciation flag again this year. And this will be going to a veteran, Susan Frazier, who is a Korean War veteran from our community. And so we'll be presenting that flag during the pregame, and we have Miss Betty Hatfield is going to sing the national anthem. If you have heard Miss Betty Hatfield sing, you know you need to be there, and if you haven't heard her sing, get there. I'm telling you, she sung at one of our events a few weeks ago at the VA, and I was blown away. Yeah, just blown away.
Now, is this the same Betty that just won a national honor?
The Betty Hatfield.
Because we had a story on that.
Yes. So she won our, and I'm spacing the award.
It was for nursing, I think.
Yes, it was a nursing award, and so she was our first recipient of that. And to go along with that, she sung the national anthem at that event. Yeah. Not aware that she was about to be presented with that award. So just a wonderful person, and you all have to hear her sing. Trust me.
When we talk about, showing appreciation for our veterans, doing things like this, for so many years, because the VA hospital has been here for the years that it has been, I think this entire community, which not only Chillicothe, Ross County, but all the counties that you serve that are around Ross County, it just seems like it's been a natural fit. The whole community embraces our veterans' efforts.
This community embraces veterans like no other community in this country, and we see that even in our voluntary services. Where we have gaps, our community steps up and fills those gaps. We are third in the nation in donated resources to our voluntary service. Third in the nation, and we're not a large facility. But that just shows that our community is there. They're filling the gaps that we need for our veterans. And a night like this is just, it's an opportunity for us to come together, for us to not only see our veterans, but see their families.
Right.
Because as a veteran myself, I know that I don't always carry that information home to my wife, you know. And so if there's resources or benefits that we have that maybe the spouses or the other family members of the veterans will hear that night, and maybe that becomes a discussion point for them. And it's just a good atmosphere. Who doesn't love baseball?
Oh, I know.
You know?
America's pastime.
And come out and celebrate with us, and enjoy the paints are on fire.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they
They're
won
on
again
fire.
they're getting the bats out, that's for sure.
Yeah.
20 runs 2 nights ago and 17 last night. So
They're on fire. So you got to come out and enjoy it with us. Again, just touch on some of the information booths we're going to have available. We got our whole health team. They're going to be on site. We got our patient business services, our caregiver support, nurse recruitment. So if we got nurses out there that are still interested in learning more about the VA and seeing what opportunities, come out for that. We got our PTSD clinical team. We have our referral coordination team. We have our connected care team. So if you're having any telehealth questions, connecting with your teleappointments, get with that team. Our voluntary service team. If we got anybody out there that's interested in volunteering or donating to the facility, come on out and see us, and we'll have some folks on site to help us with that. Some of our community partners, Soldiers Angels, will be on site. And one of our big sponsors for this event, Jobs Ohio Southeast, they'll be on site to discuss some information as well. And so in this event, so it's been a Friday the last few years just because we're kind of limping back in kind of with the COVID year off. But next year, this is a preemptive here.
yeah.
Next year, we'll be celebrating our 100th year at the Chillicothe VA, and this event's going to tandem with that centennial celebration. And so it's going to move back to a Saturday. I think I'm okay to do this. It's going to be June 1st, 2024. So save the date, put it on your calendars now. And we've already discussed that with Brian and the Paints, and they're going to request that date on site for next year. And we're going to have a big all-day celebration blowout, and we are excited about it. So.
We were chatting a little bit earlier about, how the community has embraced the Veterans Affairs Medical Center. A century of that.
Yes.
And, of course, on those grounds and across the road, almost, actually a little more than a century ago, we had a World War I training camp out there.
Yep.
So, this is just something that has always taken place. And I think putting to rest the concern that we had a few years ago when it looked like they were going to shut it down. That's all been put to bed now.
That's all to bed, and even during that time, those of us that were in the military and around that type of discussion, those discussions honestly happen all the time with Air Force bases in my perspective and other military installations around the facility. In the Air Force, they call them BRAC list, base realignment and closure list. So those discussions unfortunately happen, and it unfortunately caused some rift. It really did, because you see this community, they love that facility. They love our veterans, and folks, I got at least 15 years left in federal service, and I have not a worry in the world. I get all my care out at the VA. We're not going anywhere. We'll be right there serving veterans just like we have for 100 years. So.
I know when some of those discussions, of course, we had our 2 United States senators there, but when the VA national director came, I think that spoke volumes as to what was going on behind the scenes that said, look, you can't shut this place down.
No, it's again, we're a smaller facility in the grand scheme of things in the VA world, but the impact we have on this community, on Southeast Ohio, I would venture to say that our impact on our community is second to none in the nation. And again, we see that with how this community steps up. Times like, hey, we're thinking about shutting it down. Here comes the community. We have gaps that our veterans need filled. Here comes the community. We're having an event to celebrate them. Here comes the community. The community is going to show up, and that tells you the impact this facility has on this area. So
I know when we had that big press conference out that day with the national director in town with the 2 senators, and there were some congressmen there as well. One of them said, when I drove in here today, there looked to be an older veteran holding a sign out along one of the roads that they came in on and said, "This place saved my life." And that really stuck with him. I think at last count, we were still serving about 18 counties in this area.
So 17 counties officially.
17.
Yep, 17 counties officially, but we touch many more counties than that, you know. And I'll just give a personal story here. My dad lives in Dayton. He travels to Chillicothe to get his care at Chillicothe, VA. And it's not a hit on Dayton. Dayton's a wonderful facility.
Yeah.
They have wonderful services. He just feels something special in this community. And so he started his care here at Chillicothe, and even though he lives and resides in Dayton now, he travels here for all his appointments.
Wow.
He'll call me and say, "Is my room available?" You know, we got the spare room. There he is. So
Your dad served in what era?
So my dad served 76 to 1997. So he was the Gulf War era. And so 21, almost 22 years of service to the Air Force. He was senior master sergeant when he retired. And, yeah, he wouldn't change it for the world.
You were Air Force too?
I was Air Force, so I was.
You wouldn't dare cross the line there, huh?
You know, there was some thoughts. There was some thought. The Navy recruiter was working hard.
Oh, bet.
He was working hard, but no. I mean, you know, I know what my goals were going in, and so you know, so essentially, the first 28 years of my life was in the Air Force, and you know, when I got back from Iraq the last time, my wife went, "Hey, this has been fun, but we need to find something else to do with our time." So
A little closer to home, yeah.
yeah.
You mentioned a little bit earlier, I imagine for the amount of food that needs to be ordered, you would prefer, if they could, to you know, call and say, "Hey, we're coming."
Yeah, absolutely. It's helpful. So again, you can pre-register a couple of different ways. If you go to the Chillicothe VA website, you're going to see a link for Veterans Appreciation there, registration link. That will populate your email and with all the information we need. If you can't do that, you can simply send an email to VHACLL Vet Night Register. That's all one word. VHACLL Vet Night Register at va.gov, or you can simply call 740-773-1141, extension 17420. And again, you know, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Chillicothe Paints, obviously, and like Mike mentioned, they're the ones ordering the food, so we definitely would prefer that you pre-register, but we understand that you may become available to come late in the game. Don't worry. We'll stop taking registrations on Thursday the 15th, but if you become available, you get free all of a sudden, come out and join us anyway. So we got the Chillicothe Paints. We got Jobs Ohio Southeast, a huge sponsor of this event. We got American Legion Department of Ohio. We got Veterans in Transition, and we have AMVETS. And then we also had AMVETS Site 2256 that stepped in at the last moment when we had a gap, and they stepped up huge and filled that gap for us. And so I want to make sure we honor them too. I know they're not on the flyer, and if you're looking at the flyer, it was very last minute. We had a gap pop up, and they stepped in and filled that gap for us. So.
And again, some of the resource material or opportunities that you mentioned, Terry, during the family activities, what are some of the highlights of that again?
Yeah, so, I mean, we got our voluntary service folks. We'll have our care navigation folks. So if you get any community care, those are the folks that'll be able to explain that process to you or answer any questions you have. We have nurse recruitment. So any nursing out there that is looking at the VA as a career opportunity, let's make sure you come out and speak to those folks. Caregiver support, our whole health team, patient business service, and voluntary service. We can't miss that. If you're thinking about volunteering, if you have some spare time, you want to come out and get involved in one of our programs like No Veteran Dies Alone, or visiting our veterans over on the CLCs. We even have greenhouse activities that we have volunteers engaged in. So come on out and have a chat with us, and we'll find an opportunity for you. So just a lot of great resources out there. Soldiers Angels will be there. Honor Flight Columbus will actually be there.
Wow.
I didn't mention them.
Yeah.
They'll actually have a booth there this year. So just a lot of great opportunity and a lot of great information for our veterans and their families.
And a good number of the employees at the VA are veterans.
Yeah, I don't know that percentage, and I'm not going to guess
Yeah.
it. But we have a large veteran population in our employees. So.
Okay, very good. And again, the number and the website or the email, that's on your website?
It is. If you go to the Chillicothe VA webpage, all that information's there. But again, if you get lost in all that, just simply call 740-773-1141, extension 17420.
Terry, good to see you again.
Good to see you, Mike.
And thanks for your service.
Thank you.
Terry McQuirt of the Chillicothe Veterans Affairs Medical Center, again talking about the 15th Annual Veterans Appreciation Night at the Paints. That's coming up on June the 16th. He's been our guest today on this special edition of Litter Media Live, brought to you by Advanced Services. Don't forget, I'll be back at 11 o'clock for our daily program right here at Litter Media Live. I'm Mike Smith.
See you all there.